Yes, good afternoon. I will start now and end in a few minutes. This is our title next to our agenda. It's three parts. First, we will have a closer look to maneuver in the military context. Then we have a little sidestep to chess as a metaphor. And finally, we have a part about the OODA loop looking to the war of Ukraine and Russia. And finally, we have the information maneuver as maybe a solution for the future. And this is our presentation. First, we'll start with Lukas.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Best wishes from my side. Let's dive in and take a quick look at the basics, what we are talking about. You've got different definitions of maneuver the last day. We got one, which is the dominant one in the NATO, which is maneuver, nothing else than deployment of forces on the battlefield through movement, in combination with fire or fire potential, threat, to achieve a position of advantage in respect to the enemy. So it is something about a relation between two parties, one party, the opponent, and one our own side. And what we want to do is we want to accomplish the mission. Okay, this is nothing new for you, but what we want to highlight in the first place as a foundation for what we will tell you later on is that is something that works in a kinetic way as well as on a psychological level. Okay? There are different elements involved which are all in its core dynamic. Speed, we talk about momentum, we want to achieve surprise, we want to demoralize the enemy. So we want to achieve all things which are not static and not positional, which leads us to the next point. We have an overall overarching strategy. So this is something new which yesterday just was a little bit mentioned, but we want to highlight it because it's really important. Modern conflicts today are not waged only through the means of the military, but also and especially through all the means and instruments of power a society can muster. Okay? The things we've got to mention is it's about politics. War is waged with the means of economics. We've heard already yesterday in panel 2. Really important, especially because we will come to the topic of information later on, media and information per se, civilian and diplomatic affairs, but even religion, as we saw yesterday in the presentation. So there are lots of different instruments of power we have to integrate in an overarching strategy which we have to consider to be successful, and which, for example, Ukraine has to consider to be successful against Russia, and what we already see, how problematic and challenging the process of creating a strategy of all these factors is. So we got to the now holy trinity of strategy, of national strategy and of modes of operation, more or less, which we want to highlight. One, this is of course the topic of maneuver warfare, but maneuver warfare is related to two different modes of action too, positional warfare and attritional warfare. And all of those on a strategic, operational, on a tactical level, which is quite different, but we want to highlight it in some examples later on, are interconnected and may exist on the same time. For example, on operational level, there could be maneuver warfare in Kursk, as well as positional or attritional warfare elements in the Eastern Front, a part of the front, in the Ukraine war. So, a symbol for attritional warfare, for example, is Bakhmut. In Bakhmut, both sides tried to gain an advantage. There are different reasons why they fought in Bakhmut, but one of them was, especially for Ukraine, to create an effect of attrition for the Russian forces. And why did they do this? What's the reason behind attrition? Attrition elevates the battlefield on a different plane. So what it does is nothing else than it re-triangulates the overarching balance of power by degrading the enemy in a different way, economically, politically, concerning human resources, concerning material. So the battlefield, the overall battlefield, and the constellation, the relation between the two parties changes. So an example for maneuver warfare you already know is the Kharkiv offensive in 2022, where we see all the different elements like surprise or information present. For example, information played an important part because the Ukraine forces were able to implement information in social media, Russian social media, where they created the impression of an overwhelming mobile force that is already in the hinterland, so that they created a effect of deterrence and fear in the end, so the Russian troops stationed there removed from their positions. Two other examples, going back to history, highlighting the role of information in warfare, is on the left-hand side, the Battle of Austerlitz, 1805. There we had a battlefield, so we have a theater of war, operational level, a battlefield where, on the one hand, Napoleon Bonaparte fought against a coalition of Russians and Austrians, and they basically had more or less the same information about the battlefield itself, but they made different use of it. So Bonaparte was able to gather the correct information, the correct consequences of this information, because he knew the terrain, he knew the forces, he was able to move the forces in the right time to the right position to create an effect on the battlefield. Basically, the information for both parties were plus minus the same. They knew it was foggy, they basically knew where the enemy is, they knew about the terrain, they knew about the movements, the troop morale, more or less. So, but in the end, what I want to highlight is information matters and what you make out of information. On the right-hand side, you see a great example for the use of information if you combine it and be able to integrate it in a command and control system. This is the Iraq War. It is basically a symbol picture for the for Desert Storm as well as Iraqi freedom 2023, because both elements in both campaigns, the elements were present. So what it is about, you have different information, you have a battlefield, you have forces on both sides, and they had to find a way to be quicker than the enemy, and this is a great example where it worked out. So they were able to combine the information, to integrate different forces, to lead warfare, battle of combined arms, and to do this in a very effective manner. So they were able to cross more or less a campaign, or to close a military campaign in less than 100 hours, and were able to make kilometers, hundreds of kilometers in very short time. So well, thank you for the examples so far. Now I will hand it over to Bernhard, who will explain it on the example of chess.
Sorry for that, but I think this side also want to see the pictures. Yes, everyone know the term fog of war from Clausewitz. Maybe in former time there was a lack of information. This was the reason for the fog in war, fog of war. Today, some people are speaking about the battlefield of glass, because we have the possibility to have enough information during the space, during sensors on land, sea, air, whatever. But on the other hand, I think we have too much information, and maybe the wrong information, due to disinformation, for example. So we have a new fog of war. And we have to handle this situation. At the right side, we have the different sensors we have to deal in the future. This may be a topic for the next year, AI and the information age. How we can get the right information in the right quality at the right time, at the right place. So we have seen in the middle the chess situation, and it's the possibility in the future, maybe like here on the right side, to have not the classic but the 3D chess. I'm not able to play this, but to come chess comparing to the well-known military operational factors on the left side, I decided to name it space, because it's not only terrain. We have the different dimensions and domains that call it together, the space, as well known the force and also the time. Kasparov, a well-known, hopefully well-known chess champion about many years, his operational factors on the right side are speaking about the quality. Every move must have a quality to be successful, because the other one have the same time and has also move. You can only win maybe through time. If you're too slow, you will lose because you have overtime. And on the other side, material is also a very important part in chess. We will see in the next example. And altogether, the positional, the maneuver, and also the attrition warfare is also used in chess. Here's an example. Let's have a look at the different points. First of all, attrition. As you can see, the blue one for the black player, the black side, many figures more than the white side, to compare the numbers of these figures. So attrition alone is not the possibility. It's also depending on the position of these figures. For example, a knight at the side of the space area is not useful. If you have your knights in the center, you will be more successful. And last, the maneuver. As you can see, this knight and this knight are controlling this area and this area. And the bishop is coming up this area. It's chess, and black is losing, because not possible to move against this bishop, because this knight is defending this place. Not possible to move here, because the knight is controlling this area, and not moving to here, because this knight is also controlling this area. So, you can see in this example that all three kinds of warfare, attrition, position, and also maneuver, is necessary to be successful. And it's the same not only in chess, it's also in the real life at the battlefield. So I will hand over to the next part, as I mentioned, about the OODA loop and the situation in Ukraine and Russia.
Thank you. Coming from chess now. Follow me on a very brief journey into the OODA loop. The OODA loop is a crucial maneuver in maneuver warfare, because it's about feedback loops. Understanding feedback loops is vital because they drive adaptation. They connect outcomes of actions back to their input. Thus, they create a process of continuous improvement. Maneuver warfare has always been about outpacing the enemy on an operational level. This concept is embodied in the OODA loop, which is a four-phase decision-making model developed by Colonel John Boyd of the US Army Air Force. And today, warfare has shifted from solely focusing on controlling the physical terrain to also influencing the informational and cognitive dimension. The OODA loop offers an analytical tool and a lens to navigate these evolving battlefields, where success depends not only on outpacing the enemy, but also on outthinking the enemy. So the key takeaway here is that modern warfare requires rapid evolution in both physical and cognitive domains, as well as in informational dimensions. Let's break down the OODA loop further. It's a cyclical model designed to help decision makers staying ahead of evolving situations. The loop consists of 4 phases. The first phase is observation, where we collect information about the environment. Second phase is orientation, where we analyze the information and adjust it for context and bias. The third phase is the decision phase, where we choose a course of action based on the data. And then the fourth phase is the action, where we implement the decision, and then, very important, observe the results. The beauty of the OODA loop is that by cycling through it very quickly, we have the chance to reset the OODA loop of the adversary and putting him back to square one each time we are outthinking and outpacing him. So in maneuver warfare, it's very tempting to focus solely on speed, but it's not just about acting fast. Speed alone is mindless motion. I mean, whoever drives a Porsche, don't feel offended. I also like MotoGP, but in this context, speed alone is mindless motion. What we need is velocity. Velocity is speed added with direction. So to stay on target, you need constant feedback, allowing for real-time adjustment. And that's the real engine of adaptation, and this is what you need to stay ahead of the adversary. So outthinking precedes outpacing. Boyd's model shows that speed and agility aren't just about physical reflexes, but rather about information processing, and the effective use of the OODA loop balances quick execution with high quality decision making. So let's take our conceptual toolbox, very briefly or cursory, adjusted and applied to a real-world example, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia has focused on rapid territorial expansion, employing physical force as well as cyber warfare, information warfare to influence and shape the public opinion and thought processes. On the other hand, Ukraine has leveraged asymmetric warfare, quickly adapting to counter Russia's numerical and technological advantages. By continuously adjusting internally and externally, Ukraine has managed to stay competitive in this conflict. Both sides are locked in rapid cycles of observation, adaptation, and execution at multiple levels and multiple dimensions of engagement. So both sides engage in a constant cycle of observation, refinement of strategies, and this dynamic exemplifies continuous adaptation through the OODA loop to outthink and outpace the enemy. Zooming out a little bit, we can see that modern maneuver warfare is no longer limited to the physical battlefield, as I already mentioned. While controlling territories, cities, logistical routes, and critical infrastructure remains, of course, important, the information and cognitive dimension have become equally vital to today's warfare. The narrative is as crucial as military movements on the ground. Controlling information flows and influencing decision-making at every level, strategic, operational, tactical, is the key to achieve victory. So to stay ahead of the adversaries, we must operate seamlessly across these various domains through an integrated approach. To conclude this part, as we explore the evolving nature of warfare through the lens of the OODA loop, in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, we see a significant shift from traditional physical battles to cognitive and informational dimensions. So both Russia and Ukraine are employing what we might call maneuverist strategies, but they are also heavily engaged in cognitive and informational warfare. Russia's focus has been on cyber attacks and infrastructure destruction, and Ukraine counters with mobile defense and factual reporting to boost the moral and sustain international support. So is maneuver warfare dead? No. It's well alive and adapting to multidimensional challenges. We find ourselves in a multidimensional game, to put it like Bernhard, game of chess, where cognitive and informational maneuvers are as critical as physical ones. And the OODA loop offers a rather handy framework for understanding how to outmaneuver an opponent in this new type of warfare. The future belongs to those who adapt mental models for future success in all relevant dimensions.
Yes, as I mentioned before, information is maybe the most important battle instrument or method to win over a component without any, maybe in the best case, without any shot. As Sun Tzu, many years ago, already said. So if we have the possibility to win against an opponent because we change his mind, for example, we have heard it already today, if Russia is possible to change their mindset in Europe and also in the NATO and also US and whatever, the supporting of the Ukraine is stopped. We know altogether Russia will win and Ukraine will fail. And also the western part of the world will fail without any shot. So if Russia may lose on tactical or operational level, they maybe win on strategic level. So information as a tool is maybe the most important in the future. Also according to the willing to fight of the Western community, as we know, opinion poll say it, but just to mention the German problematic. Only 6% are interested to fight on their own will. 5% are interested to fight when it's ordered. 25% will lose the country in the case of war, and 30% will cooperate with the aggressor. Not better in Austria. And we can ask all the other nations, how is they willing to fight? Maybe better in the north and also better maybe in the eastern part of Europe, but we are standing together or not, we will lose. So we chose the information maneuver as an answer to cognitive warfare. We want to be effective on the behavior. We will influence the opponent, but we will motivate their own. So never say we would take cognitive warfare on their own population. No, not ever. So information maneuver may be an answer to cognitive warfare and also the threats in the future. This is our own definition. And also in life as in chess, foresight wins. This is the hopeful sentence for the future. Yes, and this is to summarize the topic with a picture. It always starts and ends with information. We have the information environment. We have an information data coming in via our 5 senses. They're coming to the brain. They're coming with the memories. Here's the process of thinking. And afterwards we decide and we act. This is the OODA loop. And the input is also the output. We can see maybe a carrier in the sea. It's information. We can see maybe a tank, a battalion, brigade, whatever. It's information. We do something with this information. But it's not also the things I can see and also the things I can read, for example, newspapers, books, whatever. All I see, the demonstration maybe is also information. And all the techniques is also maybe the link to the cyberspace. All this together, the information environment is influencing our decision-making process, as I said yesterday. And this is the should be aware of the situation, what's going on with the information, and we have to use it to find solutions as answers to cognitive warfare. This was an overview, a journey from the maneuver in the past to the maneuver in the future. Thanks for your attention. If you have questions, we can start now. I think so. Thank you.